But let's unpack the 10 races, because I think sometimes we are good at, say, playing devil's advocate and saying there's going to be a knock-on effect and maybe criticizing and stuff. And there are things to criticize, like you said. There's all these points, but I'm hearing we could have 100, 150 riders on track, so we're still going to get a big field. So that's pretty cool. I've also heard potentially that they offered some of these wildcard teams like a slot for the whole year, but obviously that's not public.
If
So
they
that would
paid
be
a lot,
cool.
if they paid a lot of money and actually more than they would have paid for just to be an elite team.
Okay, cool.
So that's
So I think at least the byproduct is we're definitely going to lose some riders, but maybe it was time in their career that if like your hand gets a bit forced, they go, cool, I'm going to race more in America. I'm going to race more hardline. So there's some guys that maybe the tail end of their World Cup career, and this probably pushed them out quicker than maybe we would hope. Like we love having like George Brannigan out there or someone like that. But he was also chatting to him pretty burnt out. And I think but the 10 race series is an awesome thing. Like we've been asking for it. It comes at an ironic time, right? Everything in life, be careful what you wish for, because the industry is struggling a little bit. Money's
yeah.
tighter. Teams are having to expand. So someone like Fox Suspension, they might have to spend more just on product to get riders through a 10 race series. It's just, like a small little component. But I wanted to ask Alan, like, I agree there should be a throwaway. I would love one throwaway, especially on a 10 race series. Is this going to afford people maybe a way to have like a bad race? Like, is consistency going to play even more of a role? Or now you can risk it a bit more and know that out of 10 races, surely most riders are going to have an issue, a flat, a crash, or something like that. Like, how do you think the strategy is going to play out?
I think strategy will come into it, and I would aim at you pick your days where you think, am I on today? Is it looking good? And if it is, then you put everything into it. And if it's a day when you don't think you're on, we've seen Bruni is so good at that. Is when he doesn't think he's got it, he'll still get down in a sixth or something. He'll still be there or thereabouts, and I think that makes the difference. I think this championship will probably be won on your bad days and not necessarily your good days. And whether that's an injury or a mechanical, staying the course, the schedule is pretty packed out. Going to Poland week off, and then we've got a back-to-back race that's tight because we've got a Sunday race going into a Saturday race. And then we've got 1 week off of Val di Sole. So you've got a lot of racing going on, and that's just until June. So coming into the season fresh and coming in fit is important. And obviously there's some riders that have had injuries and are sort of coming back. So whether they're going to be ready, like for us, Eris won't be in Poland. We don't think she's going to be there, but because of the long schedule, we've actually had a very similar discussion to this, to say, look, it's a long season. I think that one result may not matter as much as it might have done in other years. So we're trying to play that long game.
Sven, and when you see the 10 race series and that, I tend to agree. I think Burrell, even on the podcast, said like if he has made mistakes where he just wanted to do well at every race and he maybe should have stepped back a bit. And I feel like, when there's only a few races a season, like you got to just go for it, even when you're not having a good day, because you can't really make up for it. You can't go, okay, this one's going to be shit, but the next two are really going to suit me. So I like what Alan said there. Maybe you do, someone like Loic could be really smart and maybe build into a season, especially coming off an injury. What do you say to the 10 race series and maybe the two new venues? It's two new ones, Val di Fassa and Whiteface, that's getting added. That's like a cool topic in the 10 race.
Le Tuile.
Oh, is it Le Tuile?
No, Val di Fassa is the EDR venue, but Le
Tuile. Oh, sorry. I read the wrong line. You're right. Sorry. Le Tuile, not Val di Fassa, yeah.
In conjunction with the 10 races, you remember the biggest thing for these top 10 elite guys that have been in that position for so long, there is no more protection. And yes, there's the last chance qualifier, but if you
like how you're calling it last chance to butt in on purpose and not Q1, Q2. That's interesting.
If you have that mechanical or flat or little washout, it's so tight, you have a little mistake, you're not in the top 20. So say you make a little mistake, before you might have qualified top 30, but now you're not in that automatic top 20. And then you have your flash or your mechanical, your flat tire. So there's a good chance with the amount of top riders, we got like 20, that's not just 5 guys battling for a podium. We've got 20 guys battling for a podium. There's a good chance that we won't see 1 or 2 of them, not necessarily every round, but some rounds they will, suffer from not having the protection. But, the protection, I'm happy for the no more protection, but then that brings, then is there a throwaway event? But then if there's not throwaway events, people might, if say they have an event in Brazil one year or Japan or New Zealand, then some teams might be like, okay, well, we'll just not go there and that'll be our throwaway event and to save money. So there's pros and cons of everything. But one thing that does worry me from the riders have benefited quite well, especially the top riders, and getting their worth, and people like Marine really getting their worth in terms of getting good, I'd say increases in pay to bring the points to the teams. After this season, I feel there's going to be a unfairly weighted power to the teams and not the riders, because these teams, especially the ones that finished in the top 10, they're going to automatically have a 3-year license. So it doesn't matter who they field in the next 3 years or where they finish in the next 3 years, maybe only the final third year. So that's 4 years down the line from now. Would they need to have good results again when they, so the worry is like some of the teams might have these hugely stacked rosters now because they've got to get that top 10 team, but then they might just like knock off a few riders because at that point they've got a license for 3 years. So hopefully that doesn't happen. And I'm thinking about problems that, that we don't even need to think about now. We're ahead of that. But I do feel like the teams will have a bit too much power, and because of those top teams, there's going to be very little rotation of new teams being able to crack in and get, to take up the other spots. Maybe that 11th through 15th team will be the revolving teams, and those will be the people like Goodman, Santa Cruz. If they continue on the way they are, then they can fall into, elite team status or pro team status the following year. So that's my only kind of worry, I guess. Great to start off in Poland again, and it was a great for a first year. There was very few things that needed fixing. Maybe tweak one part of the course, which was like kind of awkward corners and stuff. But other than that, it's going to be a great first venue, passionate fans. Yeah. The only other thing, which is not so much related to downhill, but it impacts a little bit of the sports viewing for the media and the public and the fans. We used to have EDR racing on day one of practice for downhill, and now you've got the EDR pros racing on the same day as qualifying and quali 2, which is like you're having kind of the most elite version of enduro racing on another day, competing with downhill racing for eyeballs and view and media and photographers and filmers. That's a kind of a sad state of affairs in that. But then there are a couple of standalone enduros, not many, but there are a couple that will obviously have their own day in the sun.